Sahana bhavatu, Sahano bhunaktu, Saha viryam karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhi tamastu mavadvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Asmad Gurubhyo Namaha. Friends, now we are in the 6th Anuvaka of Taittiriya Upanishad, Shiksha Valli. This is the 6th Anuvaka. In the previous Anuvaka, we had seen how Mahachamasya, the ancient sage, had given the Vyahruti called Mahaha. So in that we understood that Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, and the 4th Vyahruti is Mahaha, and lot of importance has been attached to that particular Vyahruti or utterance. And the Bhashya has explained to us that there is a kind of connection between the 5th and the 6th Anuvaka. Therefore, both the Anuvaka should be understood to have the same Upasana. So this is the basic thing here. And now the Shankara Bhashya connects the 6th Anuvaka. Bhur Bhuvaha Suvaha Swarupaha Mahaha Ityetasya Vyahrityatmano Brahmanaha Angani Anya Devata Ityuktam. So in the previous Anuvaka, there is a statement Anga Anyanya Devata Aha. So it was stated there that the basic Maha is the Brahma and all the other are only the Devata. That means the limbs, and they are the deities there. So Maha is the Brahman and all the other deities are only Anga or limbs there. So when it is said that that particular Brahma is Maha, now Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, all the 3 other Vyahruti are only parts or limbs to that particular Brahma. So Maha Ityetasya Vyahrityatmanaha Brahmanaha, so they are part of that particular Brahma who is of the form of Maha. Anganyanya Devata Ityuktam. So that has already been explained. Yasya Taha Angabhutani Tasya Etasya Brahmanaha Sakshat Upalabdhyartham Upasanarthancha Hridayakashaha Sthanam Uchyate. So that Brahman of which all the other Vyahruti have been stated as limbs, that Brahmanaha Sakshad Upalabdhyartham Upasanarthancha. So here this particular 6th Anuvaka states Hridaya Akasha. That means the vastness in the heart. That is the place of this Brahman. And here, contemplating on this particular space in the heart, Sakshat Upalabdhyartham, one can get the realization of the Brahman, Upasanarthancha, and for that particular realization in the beginning stage, one can contemplate on that particular Hridayakasha. So, this heart space is called the place of Brahman. Shalagrama iva Vishnoho. So, this is Pratika eva hi saha. The Brahma Sutra also says this is actually Pratik Upasana. We understand that the Shalagrama, a kind of very sacred stone, Shalagrama, Vishnoho Pratikam. So it is taken as the replica of Vishnu. That means we have to contemplate on the Shalagrama, understanding that as the very replica of Mahavishnu. So we should not find any difference between Shalagrama and Vishnu. This is actually the way of Upasana or worship. So similarly in other things also we find the presence of Lord as in Salagrama. Similarly here, in the vast space within the heart, we imagine the presence of Brahman, and there we contemplate, and this particular Upanishad is going to explain this worship. Tasmin hi tad Brahma upasyamanam, and in that particular Tasmin Hridayakasha, so in that particular vast space in the heart, tad Brahma upasyamanam, when that Brahman is being worshipped, manomayatvadi dharma visishtam, then when it is worshipped within, manomayatvadi dharma visishtam sakshad upalabhyate panaviva amalakam. Now Shankaracharya explains out of his experience that when one contemplates on that particular place of Brahman as Hridayakasha, because the Brahma Sutra also says Guham pravishta vatmanav hi tad darshanat. So Guham pravishta vatmanav hi. So this is with reference to that particular mantra in the Kathor Upanishad. So there the Jiva and Ishvara both have entered this particular heart. This is the Guha. This is the Hridayakasha. And now here Shankara Bhagavad-pada refers to that and says, when one contemplates on this Hridayakasha and worships the Brahman within, then manomayatvadi dharma visishtam tad brahma sakshad upalabhyate. So one can realize the Brahman within as being endowed with all the characteristics like manomayatva, etc. So these are the layers. So manomaya, pranamaya, vijnanamaya. So this way one can realize within, and this realization will be as simple, easy as the cognition of a fruit in his palm. Panav iva amalakam, myrobilin. So that means a person can easily see whatever is placed in his palm. Similarly, one can easily understand the presence of Brahman within the space in the heart, and that Brahman is endowed with all the qualities like manomayatva, etc. And further in the coming chapters of this Upanishad, he will be explaining to us that these are all kosha. That means understanding the Brahman within some limitations is only a kosha. That means only sheets, various envelopes. So when one tries to discard all these sheets, that means separate the sheath, separate all the attachments, and you can get closer to the Brahman realization. Because the only difference between these two is understanding Brahman within the conditions, because what we know is within so many conditions. So naturally we have to understand that within the conditions only. But the Upanishad tries to exhort us to get to the realization that all this time, space and all the other limitations are there, and that particular reality is beyond all these limitations. And thus when these conditions are shunned away, then the reality remains as it is, and that reality that has no limits, no end, and that pure consciousness is called Brahman. And now this particular Upanishad part explains the pure consciousness. Margascha sarvatma bhava pratipattaye vaktavyaha. Okay, now the path towards that realization should also be stated, because he has given the target. That means the Brahman should be realized within, and earlier he said that Maha is the Brahman and the place of Brahman is Atma, that is within the heart. Okay, but what is the path? What is the method of realizing that? So the path is being now explained. Sarvatma bhava pratipattaye. So this is with a view to make us know that everything is only the self, the consciousness. Because here in this body, that particular consciousness is functioning to express something, and the other consciousness is trying to know something. This way, everywhere it is only the consciousness making several efforts, and when the mind, that particular condition is separated, then consciousness alone remains, and that pure consciousness is called Brahman. And for that realization only, margascha vaktavyaha, the path has to be enunciated, and iti anuvakaha ayam arabhyate, and for that purpose only this particular section of the Taittiriya Upanishad is begun. Saya esho ontar hridaya akashaha tasminnayam purusho manomayah amruto hiranmayah antarena taluke ya eshastana ivavalambate seendra yonihi yatrasauke shanto vivartate vyapohya shirshakapale bhurityagno pratitishthati bhuva iti vayau suvarityaditye maha iti brahmani apnoti swarajyam apnoti manasaspatim vakpatischakshushpatihi shrotrapatir vijnanapatihi etat tato bhavati akasha shariram brahma satyatma prana ramam mana anandam shanti samruddham amrutam iti prachina yogyo pasva. These are the mantras. Now, what does it say? Saha yaha eshaha antarhridaya akashaha. So, saha, this is connected. Ayam purushaha. Yaha eshaha antarhridaye akashaha tasmin. That means, antarhridaye yaha eshaha akashaha tasmin ayam purushaha. So, these two sentences are to be connected. Antarhridaye, that means within our heart, not physical, but when we close and meditate, so within the heart we can observe the vast space, and that is yaha eshaha akashaha, that kind of space. Tasmin, in that particular space, ayam purushaha manomayaha, and this self appears in the form of manomaya. That means it is nothing but various thoughts, various feelings, emotions. So all these appear to be of the form of Purusha. But this Purusha, because in the other Upanishad also it is stated that this Purusha is Manomaya, that may Bhavana Gamyaha, etc. But here, Manomaya in the sense, this consciousness is only observed in the first level as Manomaya, and it is Amrutaha. Amrita means having no decay, having no perishment. It is immortal. Amrutaha, because the energy, the consciousness flowing throughout the body has no decay, has no death, has no kind of absence. Therefore it is absolutely immortal, present always. And not only that, Hiranmayaha, and it is bright always. Bright in the sense we have to understand the word bright, not physically, but this is of the form of gold. That means it is shining very bright like gold, because it is in Vedanta, it is considered as self-luminous, or we can say self-referent, Swaprakasha. Therefore, the Upanishad refers to that particular consciousness as Hiranmayaha. That means absolutely self-referent, self-effulgent. Why? Because every other thing can illuminate some other thing. But when it comes to the self can illuminate everything, but it is not illuminated by any other thing. That means our senses cannot reach there, and outside luminaries like the sun, the moon, the stars, the light, fire, everything that cannot illuminate this particular self, they cannot show it. But the self is the only thing, only power, only energy which illuminates everything. And that's why in the one Ekashloki also Shankaracharya says in a very beautiful form that in the daytime we have the sun, in the night time we have the fire, the moon, the stars, everything. But when one closes his eyes, the only light within is the self, it is the consciousness, it is the energy, and that flows throughout the body, throughout the senses, and it makes the universe appear to us. Therefore, here that particular soul or the self is referred to as Hiranmayaha and Antarena Taluke. And now we come to the process of realization. That means when one sits in deep meditation and contemplates within, then he understands that the taluka, That means within the palates, between the two palates, upper and lower palates, there is ya esha stana ivavalambate. So within there, one part of flesh is that can be seen in the mouth, that is there in the mouth. Se indra yonihi. And this Upanishad says that particular piece of flesh is the door to Indra. And Indra in the Vedic context is not the Lord of Swarga, but he is the Parameshwara only. Idi Parameshwarye. So here, this particular part is called the place of Indra. Yatraso keshanto vivartate. And now, as the women do in India, the middle part of hair is separated, and that hair, where exactly the hair is separated, that keshantaha, that is known as simanta or keshanta. Yatraso keshanto vivartate. When that particular hair is separated, that particular line, and that is the middle part of our head. Vyapohya shirishaka pale. So there we understand that the skull is actually the flat bones. That means among the four kinds of bones, the skull is made up of flat bones, and four types of bones are connected. And now this Upanishad says Shirsha Kapale Vyapohya, and between the space of the two pieces of skull, this particular Indra Yoni, Indra Marga is there, and through that actually Vyapohya Shirsha Kapale, through that the Sushumna actually reaches the Sahasrara. And here actually this Upanishad is referring to the Kundalini Prabodha of the yoga also, of course the Hatha Yoga. There it is mentioned that particular Sushumna, the spinal middle nerve, that is actually that passes through the vertebrae or the spinal cord to the brain, and through that it connects to the space. And the Yoga Shastra says that when with rigorous practice of yoga, when one can arouse Kundalini and channelize the inner flow of Kundalini through Sushumna, and throughout all these Shat Chakra, he can get on to the Sahasrara, and through that Sahasrara, if he leaves the body, he will not get any rebirth. That is what the Yoga Shastra also says. And if a person lives even after the realization, even after the arousal of Kundalini, there is the possibility of attaining all the Siddhi. So he becomes a Siddha Purusha. That is also very authentically stated in the Hatha Yoga texts. So this is with reference to that particular Yoga Siddhi. Now what happens after reaching the particular part of skull and on the head? Bhuh ityagno pratitishthati. So here we have a connection. We can understand the connection between this and the previous Anuvaka. Bhuh, this is the first Vyakriti. And there we had seen Bhurityagnihi. So Bhuh, that is actually the symbol of Agni. Bhuh is the Vyakriti of Agni. Therefore here, by uttering Bhuh, so that particular person leaves that, and Agno Pratitishthati, and he will remain in the Agni. So this is the first Siddhi of that particular person. Then when one reaches the second level, that is Bhuvaha, Bhuva iti Vayo, then he can get into the Vayu, and there he will be established. And further, if he practices the chanting of Suvaha, the third Vyakriti, and above all the two, he will reach to the Suvaha, and there he will be established in the Aditya, or the prime cause of all the creation. And above that, what Mahachamasya stated, that is Maha, Maha iti Brahmani. So if he practices Maha, that means throughout life, if he meditates on the meaning of this Maha, then at the time of death also, if he can put his mind on that particular meaning of Maha, then after death he will become one with Brahman. So this kind of very abstruse or mystic formula is stated here, because we have to understand one psychological principle here, that especially that means the humans, are what we think. That means we have been responding to the universe, we have been getting impulses, impressions, and these impressions again rake up the previous impressions, and further we get into action. So this way we find the impressions and actions are connected. So throughout life we try to understand the universe, we try to enjoy the universe through our senses, and this way we are getting connected with the universe, and this is Dvaita. And in the yoga system and Advaita system also, when we withdraw ourselves completely and remain in the mind, there will not be impression, and even the past impressions will be totally burnt. That's what they say. Bhagavad Gita also says, Yo yat shraddhas sayeva saha. This is a very beautiful psychological principle, that throughout life whatever we believe to be real, we become that. That's why when we watch a movie, we for some time we watch the movie and our mind becomes one with the things projected on the screen, and we become that. That's why we feel happy or distressed or depressed, whatever it's there. That's actually because of our identity with the thing outside. So here the mind, that particular energy has this capacity, so it becomes one with that. That's why our system has been trying to give us all the positive things so that we become positive. And on this particular principle is based the theory of death also. In our Indian philosophy, when a person leaves the body at the time of death, whatever impression, whatever idea, whatever piece of knowledge is there at the time of last minute of death, he will become that. That's why in the Mahabharata they often cite the example of Jadabharata, that he was actually a great sage who practiced rigorous penance, and he had no attachment at all. He was absolutely detached from all the worldly things. But when he saw a fawn just separated from its mother and lamenting, he felt very sad for that. Out of compassion, he brought that fawn to his hermitage, and there he looked after the fawn. And he was already old, and at the time of death he was looking at the fawn and just thinking about the fawn, what would happen to that. He was very sad, and with that he left his body. And Mahabharata explains very clearly that in the next birth he took the birth of a deer, because the last moment he was thinking about the fawn, he became that in the next birth. So this is a very, very important principle that the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita tell us, that the impression is very important. That's why yam yam vapi smaran muktva tyajatyante kalevaram. So Bhagavad Gita also says that with whatever feeling or impression we leave our body, we will become that. That's why antakalepi mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. That's why Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita that if in the on the deathbed, in the last moment also, if you can remember with all sincerity the Lord of the world and all the final resort to all the beings, then you will become that. So this assurance is given in the Bhagavad Gita also. And here it says that throughout the life, if that particular aspirant worships Mahaha, the chanting of Maha and its meaning, if he contemplates on that, then Maha iti, then what is the sense of Maha? That is Brahma. Therefore he will be established firmly in Brahman only. So that is the idea here. Now what is the result of that? What would one attain out of this kind of contemplation? It says apnooti swarajyam. The first thing is he can get swarajya, that means the kingdom of heaven. What is the kingdom of heaven? It is nothing but undiluted, absolute, pure bliss. And this bliss should be imperishable. So that kind of imperishable bliss is swarajyam. Because when one practices this kind of utter detachment and within oneself, when he finds the Brahman, then there is nothing to be longed for, there is nothing to be sought after, there is nothing to be practiced also, and because of this particular state his mind will be absolutely pure, and it gives lot of peace and lot of bliss to that person. And this unending bliss is called Swarga in our Sanskrit philosophy. Apnoti manasaspatim. Not only that, the worldly achievements will also be there, and now he enumerates some of them. He says manasaspatim. That means the person who realizes Brahman in this way, that means arouses, awakens Kundalini, and that Kundalini touches the Sahasrara throughout all the Shatchakra, and when one reaches this particular point, there will not be any limitations to drag him back to the world, the mundane world, and therefore he will become Manasaspati. Manasaspati means Lord of Mind. Lord of Mind means the ability to know his mind and that of the others also. How is it possible? Yoga Shastra says in the 3rd and 4th pada that there are some yogic achievements attained by constant rigorous practice of yoga, and one of them is Manasaspati. That means understanding others' mind and own mind. Own mind, what is that? It's actually when one practices this kind of yoga method, then he will definitely get on to the knowledge of previous births and future births, and not only that, he can contemplate on the mind of other people also, and he can understand the samskara behind and the previous births and future births also. So this is elaborated in the Yoga Sutra, and now it says Manasaspatim. This is actually a kind of mind reading. He can get that. Vakpatihi, and that kind of person will be Vakpatihi. That means he will be Lord of Speech. What is Lord of Speech? That is like Brihaspati, Vakpati. That means he becomes Lord of Speech, in the sense that particular origin of speech will be properly aroused, and Vani will float without any hindrance, and his mind and speech will have a particular harmony or coherence, and therefore he will be Vakpati. This is one sense. That means he will be a good orator also. But on the other side, Vakpati means whatever he utters will become true. That means he will become a Satyasandha, Satyavak. So that is also a kind of achievement he gets out of the practice of this. Chakshushpatihi. This is the next siddhi. What is Chakshushpati? Chakshushpati means Lord of Vision. And here vision means he can see the farther things, he can see the subtler things. And this is a very great achievement. Even in the Yoga Shastra we find that Paramanu Paramamahatvanto Asya Vashikaraha. It says that out of the perfection one gets in Asamprajnat Samadhi, one can understand the subtler thing like atom, and the grosser thing like Mahat. That means from the subtlest thing to the grossest thing, he can understand anything. So this kind of very minute power one can get out of the practice of Asamprajnata Samadhi. That's what our Yoga Sutra says. So here also, this is Chakshushpatihi. That means ability to see, visualize, and get the knowledge of even the minutest things. So that one can get Chakshushpatihi. So one way it is actually clairvoyance, telepathy. So all these siddhis one can achieve. Shrotrapatihi. Not only that, one can hear the subtler sounds also. That means from very far places also, if something is heard, that person will be able to hear the subtlest sound also. So this is called Shrotrapatihi. Not only that, Vijnanapatihi, and that person will get very peculiar experiences within, and the experiences are called here Vijnana. So they may be in the form of dreams, they may be the live experiences also. There is every possibility of getting that kind of experiences out of the practice of this yoga. Now, if we refer to the Yoga Sutra once again, we find similar mention of achievements there. For example, when he says that the Gandha Samvit, Rasa Samvit, Rupa Samvit. So these are various Samvit. That means these are various divine cognitions. And there Patanjali Maharshi had given some practices. That means either Vitaraga Vishayam va Chittam, or the Hatha Yoga, Yadhabhimata Dhyanadva is also there, or Gandhavativa Pravrittirutpanna Manasah Sthiti Nibandhini, that is also there. Vishayavativa Pravrittirutpanna Manasah Sthiti Nibandhini is also there, or Vishokava Jyotishmati is also there. So if we study this particular part of Yoga Sutra, we can understand that one Vishokava Jyotishmati is there, but before that Vishayavativa Pravritti is also there. That means Patanjali, after a thorough study of course, mentions that Vishayavativa Pravritti. That means if the yogi concentrates on a particular aspect of nature, like smell or form or taste, any one particular aspect of nature, then he will become one with that and he will get divine knowledge of that. That means apart from the normal physical form, taste, etc., he can get some divine taste, smell, form, etc. So that is Vishayavativa Pravritti. And there is another thing also, Vishokava Jyotishmati in the Yoga Sutra. That means that kind of Pravritti. That means if he contemplates on the heart as Vishoka, that means only bliss, without any kind of grief, sorrow. So naturally he will get that samadhi, Vishoka, or Jyotishmati also. That means that brilliance within the heart. If he contemplates on that, then he will get bliss only. So either Vishoka or Jyotishmati or Gandhavati Pravritti. So these are all the ways to get onto the samadhi state and further asamprajnata and through that. So here, by the practice of all these, one can get some siddhi, and some of these are explained here. Vijnanapatihi etat tato bhavati. So all this is attained from this. Akasha shariram brahma. This is a very beautiful statement, that what is Brahma after all? Brahman, it is nothing but the cosmic reality, or the pervasion. The only word for this Brahman can be pervasion, endlessness. And that Brahman which has spread in the form of the universe, which is beyond the universe, and the universe is only a part of that particular Brahman, and that Brahman is Akasha Shariram. That means this Akasha is only the perishable part of Brahman, and it is actually the body of the Brahman. And here we have to understand very important theory of Vedanta, that the physical Akasha, the material Akasha space, is only the body of the Brahman. It is not the Brahman. Of course, for worship's sake, upasana's sake, in the Upanishads, we have been given some instructions like Akasham Brahma, Kam Brahma, Kham Brahma. So these are all there. Kham means, of course, this Akasha. So everywhere Akasha has been equated or identified with Brahman. That's why the Brahma Sutra also says Akashas Tallingat Atayeva Pranaha Jyotish Charanabhidhanat, etc. So Akasha Tallingat. Of course, Akasha has been identified with the Brahman. So that Akasha is only the body of the Brahman. Why? Because in the Taittiriya Upanishad itself, Akasha has been explained as the product of Atman. Atmanah Akashas Sambhutaha Akashad Vayuhu Vayo Ragnihi. So this way, the product Akasha is also there, and that will be the body of the Brahman. And where that absolute Akasha is stated, that is the Brahman itself. So there are two kinds of Akasha, and here Akasha Shariram Brahma. So that Brahman, that means the all pervaded consciousness, has this physical Akasha as its body only. And that's why the Purusha Sukta also says that Pado Osya Vishwa Bhutani Tripadasya Amritam Divi. That means the entire universe, with all the galaxies, with all the bodies, all this matter, this is only one part of the reality. And all the three parts of reality, they remain unknown, unexplored in the eternal, immortal heaven. Tripadasya amritam divi. So that has no decay at all. Why? Because decay is the condition of matter, not of the consciousness. That can decay which appears, which takes forms. So whatever appears, whatever takes forms, it can decay. But when consciousness or energy, when it flows through the entire matter, it doesn't have any decay at all. So that's why that imperishable reality is beyond all these galaxies. It's only a part of that, and it is very impossible to imagine. That's what Ken Upanishad also says, that na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vak gacchati, na manaha. It says the problem with this realization is that physically we cannot see that. Na tatra chakshur gacchati. We cannot speak about that. Na vak gacchati. We cannot imagine, guess the vastness. Na manaha gacchati. And the Vedic seers very humbly admitted that na vidmo na vijanimo yathaitad anushishyat. Or unfortunately, my children, we are unable to explain to you what is this. Na vidmaha, we don't know it very clearly. Yatha etad anushishyat, how to impart this particular knowledge to the students, we don't know. That was the humble admittance of the Vedic seers. So that vastness is the Brahman. And further it says that, okay, if you want to know that particular Brahman still, okay, understand in this way, that energy which makes all the senses function, which makes all the luminaries shine bright, that energy is Brahman. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. So it very clearly, explicitly states about the energy that is pervading throughout the universe. And that energy, Satyatma, very beautiful adjective. Satyatma. Satyam Atma Yasya Tad Brahma. So this is Bahurihi Samasa. What is this Brahma? Satyatma Brahma. That means Satyam is the very essence of this Brahman. Satyam, Satyatma. And elsewhere in the same Upanishad we will be understanding the characteristics of Brahma as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, Sat Chit Anandam Brahma, etc. So that Satyam is Brahman. There is no difference at all. Satyam, that what is this Satyam? It is reality. That means when we look at something, we understand that book is there, bag is there, or tree is, boy is, girl is, we attach to everything. And this particular is actually the Brahman, and bag, tree, book, etc. This is only matter. And when we understand that throughout the universe, wherever our eyes go, whatever we can see through our eyes, everything we understand as is, and therefore that particular is the very nature of Brahman, that is the pervasion. That means if we can look at the sun is, that means the lakhs of kilometers away, there is the star, there is the gaseous, shining, bright goal is there, and that particular ball of gases is called sun, and that sun we understand is, and that is, that means far away from the earth we can say that there is something, and even the farthest star is there. So that's why whatever we see in the space, in all directions, understand that there is something that is actually the nature of the Brahman. That's why the Upanishad says Satyatma. That means Satyam is the very essence of this Brahman. Prana Ramam. But though it is real, though reality is the very essence of the Brahman, Prana Ramam, that manifests itself through the bodies, and it rejoices it enjoys, it experiences through prana. So that means praneshu arama. That means in the vital breath, which passes through the body, inhalation, exhalation, and that vital breath, vital energy, in that the Brahman rejoices. Mana anandam, mana, and it is in the body of the form of mind. That means when that Brahman enters this body, it takes the form of mind also. Anandam, and it is nothing but that bliss. So reality, bliss, mindfulness, and the vital breath, all these are only manifestations of that Brahman, because these actually make the body function, make the body work, make the body active, and the moment they are separated, the body becomes dead. That's why these particular essential components of life are called Brahman. Shanti samruddham amrutam. So this Brahman is Shanti samruddham. Shanti cha samruddham cha, we can say this way, that it is absolutely quiet, calm, without any disturbance. At the same time, it is samruddham, it is rich, absolutely rich. And we can say Shantya samruddham, that is the Tritiya Tatpurusha. We can understand this way also, that it is rich with quietude, with peace. That means actually the true nature of Brahman is always Shanti. It is pure, it is always in peace. And all the other fluctuations are only at the psyche level, mind level. That's why when this particular mind is separated, as we do in the meditation, then the pure Brahman remains as Shanti Samruddham. And in that particular state, that Brahman is Amrutam. Amrutam means immortal. So we are not immortal in the sense of body. That means when we attach ourselves to the body, when we understand our presence as body, mind, etc., then we will not be immortal. We will be mortal only. That means we will definitely have death, because we are identifying ourselves with these material things. But when this particular attachment is separated, when this particular misidentity is removed, then one can understand oneself as Shanti Samruddham and Amrutam. So it is immortal and it is rich with absolute peace. Iti, thus Prachinayo Gyo Pasva. Now the Anuvaka says, He Prachina Yogya Tvam Evam Upasva. Upasva means you worship. How? Evam, in the way I have enumerated now. That means in the way the nature of Brahman has been elaborated in this particular Anuvaka, you worship, you contemplate on that. Who? Prachina Yogya. That means you, the soul here. That means the disciple, the student. The student or the disciple may find himself in the body, but the Upanishad sees him. Prachina Yogya. That means from so many births, he has been taking several bodies and leaving the bodies, again taking new body and coming one again and again in the world. So that particular jiva has finally come to the Upanishads. That particular jiva has finally sought refuge in the Upanishadic ideology. He has finally come at the feet of the teacher, the Vedanta teacher, and he has finally sought the Vedanta realization. And actually this particular approach to the teacher for Vedanta realization, that shows his eligibility for moksha. That means that particular jiva is in the right path, and he has only an inclination towards Vedanta. Then he will study Vedanta, then further he will attain that maturity in Vedanta, and further he will experience whatever has been enunciated in the Vedanta. This way gradually he will raise himself, and this particular spiritual transformation is the essence of Vedanta. So the Upanishad Anuvaka addresses the student here not as Shishya but Prachina Yogya. That means you have the eligibility from several previous births, and because of that particular eligibility you have acquired from your thousands of births, you have finally come to the Vedanta. Now we assure that you will be liberated. You will attain absolute peace. There is no doubt. Because we understand from the history also that Schopenhauer, that means a German philosopher, he had a habit of studying at least one sentence of Upanishad before going to bed. So he had narrated somewhere that before going to bed, he used to take the Upanishadic book in his hands. He used to read at least one sentence of that, and he used to meditate on that, contemplate on that, and he used to get sound sleep after that. And throughout life, he kept that Upanishadic book with him. So this is actually the greatness of Upanishad, that several, we don't know, we cannot count the eligible souls, because throughout the world, unknown are so many. These unknown souls are devoted to the understanding of Upanishads. We cannot know, because whatever is videographed, whatever is telecast, that is known to the people. But if a person studies Upanishad somewhere in his room, corners of the room, not known to the people, nothing will happen. If people do not know also, that person will be elevated. That person will get that kind of transformation promised in the Upanishads. So that is actually his eligibility. Even amongst us, we find several foreigners also. They have a very great sincerity towards the ideology of Upanishads, and they devote themselves to the thorough understanding of Vedanta. Not only that, they practice, they put it into sincere practice in the life also, and that kind of souls are Prachina Yogya. So here, these words are from eternity, and they are passing through towards eternity only, because the human being is only a medium, but the ideology, the knowledge got revealed to a particular sage in a particular age long back. That passes through several years, thousands of years. Several bodies come here, they understand this, and they leave the body, but the knowledge will flow, and some other bodies will come, again understand that, and because getting their purpose served, they leave the body, and further it goes. So this is actually like eternal Ganga. This knowledge will flow, the Vedic knowledge will flow, the sacred knowledge will flow, and many will take bath, the holy bath in the waters of this knowledge, and they will be removed off, cleared, totally, they will be cleansed of their impurities, and all these impurities being gone, and they come up pure, absolutely pure. And this particular soul, whoever comes towards this Vedanta, is Prachina Yogya. That means because of that particular eligibility only, that soul has come to Vedanta, and the Vedanta identifies that soul and says, you are the Prachina Yogya, and now for you we give the particular instruction, you upasva. Now you worship that. But actually worship or contemplate cannot come closer to the exact meaning of upasva. Upasva means actually making life of that kind. That means whatever one believes, one should make that belief as his life. So that is actually the secret of upasana. There is Durga Upasana, Hanumad Upasana, any kind of Upasana, but that Upasana should make the person become one with the favorite deity, and that kind of identity is to be achieved by the practice of this Upasana. And the perfect example of pure Upasana is Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, because when he worshipped Kalika, he became that Kalika. We read from the stories of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also that the essence of Upasana is to become one with that particular object of Upasana. And here the Upanishadic Anuvaka says that you worship that. This is the Brahman, and this alone is the reality. Thus the Anuvaka ends here. And now we understand what Shankara Bhagavad-pada has for us. Saha iti vritkramya ayam purushaha ityanena sambadhyate. Now he says, take the first word Saha and connect that with Ayam Purushaha. Soyam Purushaha will be the sentence there. That means the same self explained in the previous Anuvaka is being referred to in this present one. Sa yeshaha antar hridaye. Hridayasya antaha hridayamiti pundarikakaraha mamsapindaha. So now he says, what is hridayakasha? So hridaya, heart, is within our body, and it is like pundarika akara. It is like a red lotus, and that is mamsapindaha. It is, of course, it is flesh. Prana avartanaha, and through that only the vital breath takes several rotations. Aneka nadi sushiraha, and it has, of course, in the modern medicine also we know that this particular heart is connected to hypothalamus, and the autonomic nervous system is regulating that. So this we know. And aneka nadi sushiraha, that means this particular heart, the piece of flesh in the body, it has number of nerves connected to that. Sushiraha, and very fibrous nerves are within that. Urdhvanalaha, and it has the tube moving upward. That means a kind of artery to the upward. Adhomukhaha, but its face is downward. Vishasyamane pasho prasiddha upalabhyate. So this we can understand when an animal is being killed, and when it is being offered to the gods also in the sacrifice. So we can understand that this the form, the position of the heart, etc. we can understand when an animal is being killed. So that is the heart. Tasya antaha yaha akashaha prasiddhaha. So the space within the heart is, of course, very well known, like karaka akashavat. So it is very well known that when somebody breaks a particular nut, within that one can find space. Similarly, that kind of space is there in the heart also. Tasmin soyam purushaha, and within that this energy in the form of Purusha is present. Purushayanat purnava bhuradayo loka yena iti purushaha. Actually, what is the etymological meaning of this Purusha? The word Purusha means etymologically Purishayanat, one who dwells in the multitude. So actually the body is the multitude. There are several sense organs, senses of action, senses of knowledge, all that. And in this particular multitude, that energy resides, dwells, and therefore that energy is called Purusha. And another definition is there, Bhuradayo lokaha yena purnaha saha purushaha. So that is the Purusha, that is the consciousness which makes all the worlds, bhuhu, bhuvaha, suvaha, all the worlds complete. That means that energy which makes all the worlds complete, that is Purusha. Manomayaha. What is manaha? Manaha vijnanam. Manuter jnana karmanaha. Here, manomayaha should be taken as vijnanamaya, because Shankara Bhagavad-pada explains that manaha means vijnana. Manutehe vijnana karmanaha. Because manu avabodhane, that is the root here. It means manute, manvate, manvate, or manyate, manyete, manyante. After all, manu, the root means vijnana. Therefore, manomaya should be understood as vijnanamaya. Tanmayaha, tat prayaha, tad upalabhyatvat. That means here, when the Anuvaka says that the Brahman is manomaya, the self-consciousness is of the form of mind, what does it mean? It means that the consciousness should be realized through the mind. Manasaiva idam aptavyam. Manasa eva idam aptavyam. One Upanishad says that through mind only this Brahman can be achieved. Of course, the other Upanishads say that Manasana manute yena hur manomatam, etc. The Ken Upanishad says that mind cannot reach there. It is beyond the reach of mind, etc. But still, for the Upasana's sake, it can be taken as manomaya. Manute anenetiva manaha antahkaranam tad abhimani tanmayas tallingova. Or you can say that manute manyate aneneti manomaya. You can say that is the consciousness which is realized with the help of the antahkarana or the mana. Tad abhimani tanmayaha tallingova. So we can understand that means the Purusha, that the consciousness is Manomaya, in the sense that the Mana is only a symbol for that. Mana is only an identifying mark for that. Or you can say that Purusha identifies himself with the Man. So, in any way, Manomaya can be explained. Amritaha. Amritaha means amarana dharma. That means immortal. Hiranmayaha. What is Hiranmaya? Jyotirmaya. That means luminous, self-effulgent. Tasya evam lakshanasya hridayakashe sakshat kritasya vidushaha atmabhutasya indrasya idrusha swarupa pratipattaye margaha abhidhiyate. So, whoever realizes this within the space of his heart, atmabhutasya indrasya idrusha swarupa pratipattaye. So then when he realizes his true nature as Indra, then the marga is explained here, abhidhiyate. Now, what is the marga? This is the yoga marga. That means, okay, the highest goal is stated here, and now the path towards that is being explained. Hridayad urdhvam pravritta sushumna nama nadi yoga shastreshu cha prasiddha. He says that the sushumna nadi, that means the central nerve, the vital nerve, that passes from the heart through the body to the sahasrara, or the top of head, and it is very popular in the yoga shastra also. Sacha antarena madhye prasiddhe talukayor gata. That means within between these two palates, this passes through, and enacting these two Ida and Pingala, it passes to the Sahasrara. So that is called a very subtle Sushumna Nadi. Yaschaisha talukayor madhye stanaiva avalambate mansakhandaha tasya cha antarena iti etat. So this passes through the part of flesh in the mouth, the deep in the throat. So it passes through that and to Sahasrara. Yatra cha keshantaha, till the part of skull where the hair is split, separated. Antaha avasanam moolam keshanto vivartate vibhagena vartate. What is that? It is murdha pradesha. That means the part of the top of head where the hair can be separated, that particular part. Tam desham prapya tatra vinisrita vyapohya vibhajya. That means this sushumna reaches that particular part of head, and there vibhajya, it separates the shirisha kapale, it separates the two joint parts of skull. It separates, and through that it emerges. Shirah kapale vinirgata sa ya seendra yonihi, and that particular sushumna is the path or door passage to Indra. Swarupa pratipatti dwaram. And Shankara Bhagavad-pada explains that this sushumna is the passage to self-realization. And in this context we can remember what the Shiva Sutra says. There also in the Pratyabhijna Hridaya, Madhyanadi dwara vikasaha. So there Kshemendra also explains to us this Madhyanadi. That means left is Ida, right is Pingala, and between these two the subtle nerve is Sushumna. And with rigorous practice of yoga, one has to channelize this Kundalini through that Sushumna, and thus that Sushumna will reach the top part of head, and separating the skull, it will disperse. And that means even in the 20th century, we had live examples of the great yogins who had experienced this Kapala Siddhi. And we know about one yogi, great yogi. He is Kavyakantha Ganapati Muni of the 20th century, who had experienced this Kapala Bheda. So, because of his experience, it has been attested that this is not something exaggerated. It is actually, it can become matter of experience also. Because when he was on the Tiruvannamalai, Arunachalam in Tamil Nadu, he had personally experienced this Kapala Bheda, that means that particular Kundalini passing through Sushumna and reaching the Sahasrara and breaking his head and coming out. But generally, we know from the yogic texts, Hatha Yoga texts, that a person who experiences this Kapala Siddhi will not be alive. Immediately after that, he will leave the body. So that is the natural recourse. But in the case of Kavyakantha Ganapati Muni, we know that even after this kind of achievement, he was alive for about 11 years. Not only that, it is not that he described about this particular achievement in one of his books, but his disciples, his wife, his daughter, so all these persons were present when he experienced this great achievement. So that was during the night, 8:30 or so, he experienced something passing through his spinal cord, and that reached the top of his head, and he was experiencing immense pain there, and he thought that the last days of his life were near. And at that particular point of time, all of them who were present there heard the sound, and they had beheld that particular green light emerging from his skull. And that was a clear sign of Kapala Bheda, Kapala Siddhi also. And when this particular achievement was narrated the next day to Ramana Maharshi himself came down to the cave Virupaksha Guha of this Kavyakantha Ganapati Muni, and he had himself applied some badam oil to the head, and he then admonished this sage to wear the wooden slippers. He said, hereafter you should not use any plastic or rubber, etc. Hereafter you should use only wooden, because the energy passing through the body will have a connection with the earth, and that should be contained within the body. Therefore you should wear this paduke, etc. he said. So this has been recorded in history, and this kind of Kapala Bheda is mentioned in the part of Taittiriya Upanishad. Taya evam vidvan manomayatmadarshi murdhno vinishkramyasya lokasya adhishtata bhuriti vyahuriti rupaha yo agnir mahato brahmanaha angabhutaha tasmin agno pratitishthati agnyatmana imam lokam vyapnoti ityarthaha. So now this particular part of Anuvaka will explain to us what he will experience after Kapala Bheda. So this is actually a very, very mystic, abstruse and very subtle yogic achievement. The path and achievement both are explained here, and we shall understand the Bhashya in the next class. We stop here. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.